The reason most guitarists struggle to learn triads is this, the triad puzzle. But when you don't see the bigger picture, it can be hard to memorize them, and so ends your chance at faster growth. Sadly, by the end of this video, many of you are going to realize that the reason you found it challenging to make triads a part of your playing is you've been only focusing on this. And I'm afraid only having one piece of a puzzle is useless. But when you see the bigger picture, before we start, we need to quickly learn what triads actually are. They're the building blocks of chords, so a major chord is made up of a major triad. And with tri meaning three, it's made up of three notes, a root, a third, and a fifth. So on guitar, like that. So anytime you hear a major chord, no matter how many notes there may be, there's only three different notes. If there are more, like a full open A where there's 5 notes, that means that some of them are just repeated, like an A here, and an E here, but there's only A, C sharp, and E, those 3 different notes that make up the chord. Now there's 3 variations. The first one's called the root position because the root is the lowest note. In this case, we're doing an A, so it's an A. Then if we have the third as the lowest note, that's the first inversion. And then if the fifth is the lowest, you might have guessed it, that's the second inversion, which is a little bit confusing because you might think that the first inversion will be first, but it's the root position, first inversion, then second inversion. So root, first, second. Now we have the same thing for 3 other types of chords, minor, augmented, and diminished. We can forget about those last 2 for now, but for minor triads, all you have to do is lower the third by 1 fret. So right here, that third, 1 fret down, that's a flat third, and that gives you a minor triad. Now, if this stuff is at all confusing, you might want to check out my course, Guitar Theory Toolbox, where I go into music theory, how it relates to guitar, and actually making music with it. It's a whole lot slower than this and more in depth than what we're talking about here. But at least for now, we know the basics of triads. We're going to look at how the rest of the puzzle can help us learn triads even faster and make them more useful. But first, what are they really good for? Well, they're great for both rhythm and lead, but overall they help to understand the fretboard and how music works. When you play bar chords, your hands get kind of stuck, you know? But triads open things up so you can add embellishments more easily. And you can move the inversions around and be more melodic like a keyboardist. And notice how each one has a different energy to it. For soloing, they really help to outline the chords so you're not just stuck using one scale. So now we know why triads are useful, but before we continue, we have to quickly learn what the caged system is. It's just a simple acronym for the 5 most used open chords. So C, A, G, E, and D. And when you imagine playing an E like this, and you move it up 1 fret, bar down, it's an F. Or at the 5th fret, A, because you have your A right here. And you can do this for all the other ones. But you can also adjust them to get minor chords. So if you play this E shape over an A, lower that third, and that's A minor, just like you would here. If you're looking for a quick reference for the cage system to always have with you, check out my cage system cheat sheet. It not only shows you the major and minor chord shapes, but also scales that go around with them. It's a great way to link things up and unlock the mystery of the fretboard. I put a link in the description down below if you're interested. Now let's hear and see how we can use cage shapes to play with a tune, like I'd Rather Go Blind, where it's just A and B minor. You use this shape, right? Then you use the E minor shape. Then you can use the D minor shape. And you can use the C shape. What do triads and the cage system have in common? Well, this. If we think of this piece as a triad and this as the larger chord it fits into, then we don't have to learn triad shapes as something entirely new. If you already know your chord shapes well, then you can leverage them and see where the triads fit in, like in this E shape here. These first three are actually a power chord, right? But the next one is a second inversion, major triad, a root position, and a first inversion. So you've got 3 right in a row. And my favorite, the C shape, which looks tricky at first. You move it all the way up here, 12th fret, it's an A. Right away, it's a root position, first inversion, second inversion, and that's actually the same shape as that D shape right there on top. So if you think of it like that, you can kind of move around and be much more melodic, and opens that chord shape up rather than just locking down your fingers. And it makes it a lot easier to see where those triad shapes are and memorize them, because they're in a shape that if you already know it, you already know it. You can think of looking for them like a game and then start linking them up in a chord progression like this. We now know a faster way to learn triads by seeing where they are inside of the caged shapes. Let's hear how it might sound to integrate this approach into a solo, blending in triads with just a simple scale. So adding triads to your toolbox can be extremely powerful, but there's something else I do that's had an even bigger impact on my playing. So check out this video here, where I show you what it is and how you can use it to make your solos better than ever.